You have done everything I told you to do. You have assumed the wish fulfilled. You have entered into the state akin to sleep and felt it real. You have persisted, and yet nothing has moved. The bank account reads the same. The person has not called. The body shows no change. And now you are afraid to admit what you're thinking. Perhaps it doesn't work. Perhaps I am the exception. Listen carefully. The fact that nothing has moved is not evidence that the law has failed. It is evidence that you are closer to your manifestation than you have ever been. I know this sounds contradictory. I know your senses scream the opposite. But before this evening is over, I will show you why the stillness, the absolute stillness of your outer world, is the very sign that the invisible is about to harden into fact. Most abandon their harvest one day before it breaks ground. I will not let you be one of them. Now, before I tell you why nothing has moved, I must first show you what you have been doing wrong. Not in your technique, you know the technique. I have taught it to you again and again. The error is in your reaction to the stillness. The first mistake is this: you check for evidence. Every morning you wake and you look at your bank account, you look at your phone, you look in the mirror, you look at the empty space beside you in the bed. And when you see no change, you feel something. That feeling is disappointment. That feeling is doubt. And in that moment, my friend, you have re entered the state of lack. Let me tell you what you are doing. You are digging up the seed to see if it has grown. You would think a farmer mad if he planted seed on Monday and returned on Tuesday to pull it from the ground to inspect its progress. You would say to him, leave it alone, give it time, the seed knows what to do. Yet this is precisely what you do when you assume the wish fulfilled on Sunday night and wake Monday morning to check the evidence. The seed is buried in darkness. You do not see it growing. You see only bare soil, but beneath that soil, unseen, the seed is splitting open. Roots are forming. The pattern of the full-grown plant is unfolding from within the seed. Your task is not to monitor this process. Your task is to leave it alone. Every time you check for evidence and react with nothing has changed, you reassume the state of waiting, and waiting is a state of lack. That state too hardens into fact. You plant on Sunday, you uproot on Monday, you plant again on Tuesday, you uproot on Wednesday, and then you say to me, Neville, I have been planting for months and nothing grows. I tell you, you have not been planting for months. You have been planting and uprooting, planting and uprooting. The seed never had a chance to grow. Hold this thought. I will return to the seed in a moment. But first, there is a second mistake more subtle than checking for evidence. It is the mistake that happens not at night when you practice, but all day long while you walk and work and speak. Most who hear me miss this entirely, and it is this mistake that causes the assumption to collapse before it ever has a chance to harden. I will show you that mistake now, for if you do not correct it, no amount of imagining at night will save your harvest. The second mistake is more subtle. You perform your imaginal act perfectly at night. You enter into the drowsy state, you feel the wish fulfilled, you fall asleep in that assumption, and I commend you for this. But then you wake, and by 10 o'clock in the morning you are living from the old state. You say, I wonder when it will happen. You say, I hope this works. You say, maybe I need to do it differently. These are not neutral observations, my friend. These are assumptions. And an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. You cannot assume fulfillment for 10 minutes and lack for 23 hours and 50 minutes and expect the 10 minutes to win. Consciousness is indivisible. What you are conscious of being throughout the day is what you are planting, not what you visualize for a few moments at night. Now I must insist on this, my friend, because you have heard me speak of the imaginal act and many have misunderstood me. The imaginal act is not a ritual you perform once daily and then forget. It is not a prayer you say and walk away from. The imaginal act is the entrance into a state, and you must remain in that state. You must think from it, you must speak from it, you must walk from it. If you enter the state at night and abandon it by morning, you have done nothing. Do not let anyone, including yourself, talk you out of this. The state must be sustained. I will tell you a story. Many years ago, when I was teaching in New York, a woman came to me after one of my lectures. She had been applying the law for 6 months. She wanted to manifest a specific sum of money to pay off a debt. Every night she imagined holding the check. She felt the relief. She fell asleep in thanksgiving. And yet, 6 months later, the debt remained. I asked her, "What do you say when you think of this debt during the day?" She hesitated. Then she said, "I tell myself it will be paid. I have faith it will come." I said to her, "You are lying to yourself and you are lying to me. What do you really feel?" She looked at me and her face changed. She said, "I feel afraid. I feel the weight of it every day. I check my mail hoping for the check. I check my bank account. I worry." I said, "Then that is what you are assuming, not at night when you do your imaginal act, but all day long you are assuming debt, fear, waiting. You are conscious of being a woman in debt, and that is the state that is hardening into fact." She protested. She said, "But Neville, I do the technique. I feel it real at night." I said, "The technique is not 10 minutes of imagining. The technique is a change in consciousness. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled until your assumption has all the sensory vividness of reality, not just in your evening practice, in your waking hours. You must walk as the woman who is debt free. You must think from that state. You must refuse to accept any other state, regardless of what your senses report." At first she resisted. She said it felt like denial. She said, "But the debt is real, the bills are real. How can I ignore them?" I told her, "I am not asking you to ignore them. I am asking you to stop reacting from them. Pay the bill if you must, but do not feel the lack. Do not enter into the emotion of debt. Remain in the state of freedom." She returned to me 6 weeks later. She told me that for the first 2 weeks nothing changed, but she held to the state. She refused to feel the debt. She walked as a free woman, and then suddenly her brother called. He had sold a piece of property and insisted on giving her a portion, the exact sum she needed. It came out of nowhere. I tell you, it did not come out of nowhere. It came out of her assumption. But the assumption had to be sustained, not for 10 minutes at night, all day long. Now, some of you will say, "Neville, I do not speak of lack. I remain silent. I say nothing at all." And this brings me to the third mistake, the most dangerous of all. It is the mistake that operates beneath words, beneath thoughts even. It is a feeling, and if you do not recognize this feeling and know how to dissolve it, you will remain in the state of absence no matter how perfectly you perform your technique. I will show you what that feeling is and how to know if it is ruling your consciousness right now. You may not speak doubt, but you feel it. Feeling is the secret. Every time you notice the thing is not yet here and feel the pang of its absence, even silently, even without words, you are assuming absence. That feeling is a state, and you dwell in it more than you dwell in the wish fulfilled. The world will tell you that wanting is the first step toward having. I tell you they are wrong. Wanting is not a step toward your desire. Wanting is the acceptance of lack. It is the state of not having, and that state perpetuates itself. You do not want your desire. You have it. There is no in between. There is no transition. You are either conscious of being the one who has, or you are conscious of being the one who lacks. Choose. I have told you before, but I will tell you again. It is not what you say. It is not even what you visualize. It is what you are conscious of being. If you are conscious of being someone waiting, lacking, hoping for the thing to come, you remain in that state, and the law gives you more waiting, more lack, more hope deferred. Let me ask you this. When you think of your desire, what do you feel? Be honest. Do you feel the naturalness of already having it? Or do you feel the tension of wanting it? If you feel wanting, you are in the wrong state. Wanting is lack, hoping is lack, waiting is lack. These are not steps toward fulfillment. These are states of absence, and consciousness is the only reality. Before I tell you how to correct these three mistakes, I must show you the pattern beneath them. All three share one root. You are reacting to the interval instead of dwelling in the end. Remember what I told you a few moments ago, that you dig up the seed to check its progress. Now, this is where you see why that matters. The interval between assumption and manifestation is not a void. It is not failure. It is gestation. It is the period in which the invisible becomes visible. But the invisible is the real. What you see with your physical eyes has already been created by what you were conscious of being yesterday, last week, last year. It is an echo. It is the outpicturing of old states. What you are conscious of being now, in this moment, is creating what you will see tomorrow, next week, next month. But there is a lag, there is an interval, and in that interval you see no evidence. The clay is in the kiln, the seed is in the ground, the echo is traveling back through the canyon. Your task is not to monitor the interval, your task is to ignore it. not in denial, but in the knowledge that the work is being done in the invisible. The bridge of incidents is being constructed. The rearrangement of people, circumstances, events is happening outside of your awareness. You do not need to know how. You do not need to see it happening. You need only to remain faithful to the state. I will tell you another story. When I wanted to go to Barbados in 1933, I had no money, I had no ticket, I had no means. I went to my teacher Abdullah and told him of my desire. He looked at me and said, "You are in Barbados, not you will be, you are." I said, "Abdullah, I am in New York, I have no money for the passage." He said, "You are in Barbados," and he closed the door. I thought him unreasonable. I thought him mad, but I trusted him, and so I began to sleep each night as though I were in my father's house in Barbados. I felt the tropical air. I heard the sounds of the island. I felt myself there. For weeks nothing moved. No money came, no ticket appeared, no opportunity presented itself. I continued to do my daily work in New York. I continued to live in a room with no sign of travel, and I began to doubt. I thought perhaps I had misunderstood. Perhaps Abdullah was speaking metaphorically, but I persisted. I fell asleep every night in Barbados. Then one day my brother, who lived in another city, wrote to me. He said he felt I should come home to Barbados and he was sending me a ticket and insisting that I come. It was sudden, it was unexpected, it was, to my outer senses, a coincidence, but I knew it was not coincidence, it was the law. The bridge of incidents had been constructed invisibly. The interval had been the time in which my assumption rearranged the world to conform to what I was conscious of being. Make no mistake, my friend, during those weeks when nothing moved, I was closer to Barbados than I had ever been. The very stillness was the sign that the invisible was hardening into fact. Now let me tell you what to do, not a new technique. You already know the technique, but there is one element, one specific instruction about the moment you fall asleep that determines whether your assumption takes root or evaporates by morning. Most omit this step entirely, and without it, the imaginal act remains theory. I will give you that instruction now, and then I will tell you how to live during the interval when nothing appears to move. Your task during the interval is singular. Remain faithful to the invisible. Do not ask when, do not ask how, do not check for signs. Live as the man or woman who already possesses the thing. Not "I will have it," not "it is coming," but "I am it, I have it, it is done." This is not pretending, this is not positive thinking, this is assuming. And assumption, though false to the senses, if persisted in, will harden into fact. The law is impersonal. It does not care about your worthiness. It does not care about your past. It does not care about your doubt. It only responds to what you are conscious of being. If you are conscious of being a man waiting for his good, you remain waiting. If you are conscious of being a man in possession of his good, you must receive it. There is no other possibility. Tonight, when you retire, do this. First, reduce yourself to a drowsy state. You know this state. It is the state just before you lose consciousness. In that state, the conscious mind is quiet and the subconscious is most impressionable. Second, in that state, construct a short scene which implies the fulfillment of your desire, not the desire itself, the aftermath, the result. If you want money, do not imagine money. Imagine what you would do if you had it. Feel the naturalness of it. Third, do not strain to hold the scene. Rest in it. Loop it gently until it takes on the tones of reality. And fourth, fall asleep within that assumption. Let sleep seal it. But here is what most do not understand. The imaginal act at night is not the whole of the work. It is the planting. The work continues in your waking hours. You must live from the state. You must think from it. You must refuse to re-enter the old state, no matter what your senses report. When you check your bank account and see the same number, do not feel lack. When you see the empty space, do not feel loneliness. When you see the unchanged circumstance, do not feel failure. These are tests. The interval is testing your faithfulness to the invisible. I tell you with certainty, and this is not opinion, it is law. The interval is where the harvest is lost or won. Not in the imaginal act, not in the technique, in the interval, in the hours and days when nothing appears to move. That is where your faithfulness is tested. That is where most abandon their good. Do not be misled by the teachers who tell you to let go, to detach, to forget your desire. They have not understood the law. You do not let go. You hold fast. You dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled until the outer world has no choice but to conform. I told you at the beginning, you are closer than you have ever been. Now let me tell you why. The interval before manifestation is often longest and stillest just before the breakthrough. Why? Because the bridge of incidents is being constructed in the invisible. The rearrangement of circumstances, people, events, all unseen. The seed is growing underground. The clay is hardening in the kiln. The echo is traveling back through the canyon. You do not see it, but it is happening. The fact that nothing has moved yet means you have been faithful long enough for the law to do its work. Most men abandon their assumption days, even hours before the harvest. They grow weary. They say, it does not work. They say, I am the exception. But there are no exceptions. The law has no favorites. It worked in the invisible the moment you assumed. The visible manifestation is the lag, it is the echo, and the echo must return. How long should you persist? Until, that is the only answer. Until, the stillness is not failure, it is the silence before birth. It is the darkness in which all seeds grow. It is the kiln in which the clay hardens. Do not mistake it for absence. It is presence. It is the law doing its work while you sleep. And now I tell you, my friend, the secret behind everything I have said tonight. The fact that nothing has moved is not evidence of absence, it is evidence of presence. It is the silence in which all creation gestates. The seed does not fail because you do not see the sprout. The clay does not fail because it is hidden in the kiln. Your assumption does not fail because your senses report no change. The invisible is doing its work. And the moment you accept this, the moment you stop demanding evidence and rest in the knowledge that consciousness is the only reality, that very moment the bridge begins to externalize. You are not waiting for your manifestation. Your manifestation is waiting for you to stop digging up the seed. Tonight, when you retire, do this just once. Enter the drowsy state, assume the wish fulfilled, not as something coming, but as something that is. Feel its reality, rest in it, and fall asleep within that assumption. That is all. In the morning, you may wake to find nothing has changed in the outer world. That is well, it means the work is being done in the invisible. Or you may wake to find the first signs of the bridge. That too is well. Both are the law unfolding. Do not check for evidence. Do not dig up the seed. Live from the state. Walk as the one who already is what you have assumed yourself to be. The world has no choice but to conform. Remember always, consciousness is the only reality. Imagining creates reality. An assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. May you sleep tonight in the stillness of the wish fulfilled. May your faithfulness to the invisible bear fruit in the visible. And may you know beyond all doubt that you are closer than you have ever been. Go now and live in the end.